right, is Tom Brady actually good at golf? Now, we've seen him play in a lot of these events, whatever. Any guess on what his handicap is?
He's got to be a low single-digit handicap. I would say 3, 4, or 5-ish range, something like that.
So maybe this does surprise you. Tom Brady apparently is an 8 handicap, which is still a good player, obviously. And he plays in a lot of these pro-ams and he plays in a lot of these events where Capital One match, whatever, but has played in a lot of these events where he has to have a reported handicap. Most recently, I know he played with Keegan Bradley at the 2024 Pebble Beach Pro-Am, but I feel like we've seen Brady play a lot of golf on TV.
We have, and I guess it has been hit or miss, up and down. He did hole out a couple years ago, I think, when his pants split or whatever that was, with Charles Barkley in one of the matches. I mean, he's got a great swing. Again, if you're 6'4", 6'5", relatively flexible and reasonably athletic, there's no reason that with a few golf lessons and spending a little bit of time on your game, there's no reason you shouldn't be a single-digit handicap.
And then factor in just the competitive killer instinct that this guy has, where anything he does, he's gonna try to be good at.
For sure.
So obviously he's worked at. I think he has a pretty good swing. And yeah, look, in the grand scheme of things, if you're an 8 handicap, that's a good player.
Right.
It is. And what some people have posted about online a lot is that he's overall pretty inconsistent golfer. Could say that pretty much about anybody, I guess, especially on the amateur level.
That's golf.
But yeah, but overall, you're right. We've seen him in the Capital One match hole out. We've seen him playing in some of these events. He seems to be a pretty good player, and I actually saw a video recently of NFL players talking about who are the best NFL golfers. And do you have any that come to mind out of the NFL guys who, past or present, who are the best golfers?
I mean, we've seen a few in some of the events. Obviously, most recently, the event that is every year, in Utah? I think that's in Utah,
right?
the
Lake Tahoe one, the American
100%.
Century or whatever.
I mean, Peyton Manning has been hit or miss. Obviously, he didn't have a good year this past year, but have seen him play well, certainly, on TV. I mean, that's more on the NFL side. Steph Curry, obviously, in the NBA is a plus handicap, if I'm not mistaken.
And he's played in some events. There's a lot of the quarterbacks are pretty good.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, I think his handicap's a 4 or 5.
Right.
Josh Allen's really good. And Tony Romo, historically, is probably the best.
He's trying to qualify again,
right?
I believe. I mean,
and remember that one year he was broadcasting. I think it was a Corn Ferry event, or was it a tour event?
And if he made the cut, he would have had to have stayed and missed, the broadcast on Sunday, which I would have
for sure.
What
I mean, Romo obviously, and look, he used to get a lot of, the Cowboys fan base is so big and crazy, and everything gets scrutinized if you play for the Cowboys, but I remember Romo would get criticized for taking golf too seriously. And is he focused on football, whatever? I know he just recently did the video with Bryson DeChambeau on breaking 50 and played really well. He seems to be a great player, a plus player, a guy who might be on the verge of maybe trying to qualify for some events. I know he's got some sponsors exemptions in some past tour events or whatever. But Romo seems to be the best.
For sure. I mean, I don't know that anyone else jumps to mind. Patrick Mahomes' swing is nothing to write home about.
Travis Kelce, same thing.
Yeah, nothing overly impressive. But again, if you're athletic, get some lessons, spend some time on it. Put some work in, and I gotta believe there's an easy path to single digit.
Rodgers obviously, again, is known for being pretty good. I think Jared Goff is a 7 or an 8 handicap as well. I think he's pretty good. Stafford. Same thing. I wonder who's better, Goff or Stafford. God, we need.
It's got to be Goff at this point.
We need them in a match. A local Detroit charity match between Jared Goff and Matt Stafford. That'd be great.
Could you imagine?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It really would.
It seems like those two are. I don't know if I'd say cool, but it seems like they have respect and are fine. Despite they'll always be tied to each other.
They will. I think there's always if you're a competitor, if you're an athlete, you just understand things on a different level. And there's always going to be things that motivate you and things that you think about that are you're going to think about when you're working out, when you're getting those extra reps in, things that you're doing on a daily basis. But personally, I mean, when these guys see each other, in my opinion, a lot
Yeah.
of it is all respect.
Right.
You know, you're
For
not
sure.
carrying that into a handshake, or if you run into a guy on vacation or whatever,
Right.
you know, you're not going, hey, Lions should have never traded for me, or what, you know,
Right.
you're not making comments like that. You know,
Right.
it's just so.
Well, and it's just funny though too, because I was reading an article earlier about, hey, could Tom Brady, now that he's retired, could he be a professional golfer? And real, guys, same with
So
Steph Curry. You know, if you're a scratch player or even a plus player, the difference between that and being a tour player where you have status, and it's just total, it's night and day. You know, I've always said I think there's a much bigger difference between a scratch golfer and a PGA Tour player than there is between a scratch golfer and a 10 handicap, and I believe that. These guys that play on tour are just so incredibly good, and just because we might see Tom Brady hole out or Steph Curry hit some great shots, Tony Romo hit some great shots, guys that are overall statistically great players, doesn't mean that they can go make it on the PGA Tour or the Korn Ferry Tour or the Champions Tour.
There's also a massive difference between, like Tom Brady is apparently an 8 handicap. So Tom Brady's probably playing premier private, country club golf. He's probably playing extremely nice courses.
He lives right on Indian Creek down in Miami.
Right, that are in, great shape, probably difficult conditions. He's an 8 handicap, so he's shooting his best score is probably high 70s, maybe low 80s, whatever it is. He's doing that from 6,800 yards or 7,000 yards. Not tournament conditions, not the way that everything is rolling when you're actually out there in competition. Those guys are playing 7,500 yards.
Oh, I know,
every single
it's crazy.
week. 7,800 and some. It's going to be 8,000 soon in some of these major tournaments.
Now,
people have no idea how good these guys are.
I wonder how. If Tom Brady now, how much time he has to practice golf? He's so into the broadcast career now,
and he needs to get to work on that.
Have you been not impressed with him so far?
I know he got some flack the first week. The problem is the games haven't been on national TV. I don't think. I know I missed the first one, and then week 2, that game was on at the same time the Lions were. So we got obviously the Lions game here locally in Detroit. So I didn't get to hear, but apparently there was marked improvement from week 1 to week 2, according to all the experts on Twitter.
Who cares?
Which I love to follow that.
Obviously, this is a guy that's the greatest of all time. Guys, he's going to figure out how to be a good broadcaster,
you would think.
Much like he will with golf. The guy's going to figure out how to do anything great. It's just how these guys are. And I put Tom Brady on the same category in terms of competitive and killer instinct as I do with Kobe and Jordan and guys like that are just killer instinct. Tiger Woods. I think those guys, if you want to list the Mount Rushmore of guys that are just the GOAT, killer instinct, competitive, they're going to be good at everything. It's Jordan, Kobe, Brady, Tiger Woods, I'm sure LeBron, whatever. Guys like that, I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to be good at broadcasting.
Yeah.
He's not going to allow himself to not be good.
No, and he's gonna go all in too. I mean, it's the same thing. If you want to get better at golf, you better be on the range. You better be rolling putts. You better be working on the short game, working on all the shots that you have to hit. He's gonna be doing the same thing, I guarantee, in the lead up. So maybe he won't have as much time to golf because he's gonna be so focused on making sure he's the best color guy, that he can possibly be. And honestly, totally off subject, but I thought Greg Olson was fantastic. So. Even though he was only there for a brief time as the main color guy for Fox, I think he's got to kind of overshadow him and do better than him because I thought Greg Olson kind of got a raw deal, even though you can't compare Greg Olson and Tom Brady, but Greg Olson was very good in that role.
It's amazing. We're just seeing a lot of these guys go from playing to broadcasting, and it's got to be so different. I'm sure these networks love it because it's credibility and God. You know the difference between Tom Brady asking a coach a question versus a journalist asking a coach a question?
Right.
I mean, come on. The coach is probably honored to almost like he has to really justify his answer to Tom Brady as opposed to a journalist who's never played asking him.
Right.
So I'm sure that from an interview perspective and from an access perspective, hiring a guy like Tom Brady is going to get you more access to these teams. If he walks into a facility on a Friday for a meeting, a production meeting or whatever, that's just a lot. It's a lot different vibe. It's a lot different aura and status almost that it brings to these networks.
You mean a question that's asked like at halftime of an NFL coach? Coach, it seems like your rush defense has really given up a lot. What do you have to do in the second half to slow
Yeah.
that down? We got to stop the run. You mean that there's no
Yeah.
value in a question and answer like that?
Right. Well, it's funny. The Sunday conversations that we all love that Barstool and Caleb Presley does. He just did one with Kevin O'Connell, the coach of the Vikings, and was just joking with him the whole time about coach speak and not answering questions and stuff like that. A lot of the times, I think these coaches just are so good, and maybe it's media training, maybe it's just getting so numb to it. But a lot of these coaches are just so good with answering the question and not answering it at all. They speak in just such general terms.
They just don't care. I mean, let's be
Right.
honest. If you have on a Monday after a loss, you really think that they're prepping and thinking about that 20-minute press conference that they're going to have with all these journalists sitting in there
Right.
asking them questions?
Second guessing them.
They are sitting there going, what is the fastest route and pathway I can get from this podium back to my office so I can actually get to work and get away from these people? They don't care.
I think
they don't care to
Dan
do that.
Campbell now is starting a new trend where he's speaking about himself in third person, and which is a great way to show blame. As a, in the last game, their head coach cost him. And their head coach cost him this victory. So now he's putting the blame on himself and getting mad at himself in a third person way. So how is the media really going to come back and attack him when he's already attacking? He's already attacking himself. It's brilliant, really.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But no, Tom Brady, very good golfer, 8 handicap. Probably only going to continue to improve now that he's retired, even though he's broadcasting, and we'll continue to see. God, that'd be great if I had a dream foursome that I want to have. It would be. I would put Tom Brady in my foursome for sure.
Brady, Tiger. You got to get one more, really.
And look at Jordan. Michael Jordan is so competitive, and he's great at golf now. I mean, I think he's a 2 handicap or whatever, and he plays all the time, and 36, and is always gambling and betting and whatnot.
Two cigar a day guy. I mean, man.
And from what I've heard from people that have played with him, he doesn't care what you're betting. He truly doesn't care if someone's betting $1 a hole or 10 grand a hole, because it's monopoly money to him, and he just wants to take money out of your pocket.
Yeah, he's just
and that's really all it is.
Yeah.
And those stories are great about. I think there was a story of him on the plane one time. I think it was that some guy, he had asked one of his teammates to play, and he goes, "No, I don't have the money that you. I'm not playing for 10 grand." He goes, "Well, what do you want to play for? Let's play for $1 then." He goes, "Michael, you want to play me for $1?" He goes, "I don't care what we're playing for. I just want to take money out of your pocket."
Yeah, right.
But just legendary, and Brady, Jordan, all those guys. So Tom Brady's overall 8 handicap, very good golfer.